Thank you.
So we're back for another Gab with Abigail. It's time to have a new Gab. If you're new here, thanks for joining. If not, thanks for coming back. So, we're actually doing another Keeping Up with the D-List Fundies. This is coming out a little bit earlier than I anticipated, but with everything that's going on in the Capitol, I decided I needed to talk about this now. So that's what we're doing. Today we're going to be talking about the Seawald family, that's Jessa Duggar's in-laws, and we're also going to do a little catch-up with the Rodriguez family. It's on brand in terms of like Trump and everything, so I felt like it was an appropriate time to go ahead and talk about that. So for those of you who do not know, Jessa Seawald, nee Duggar, is married to Ben Seawald, and we're going to be talking about his family, obviously. So he is the oldest of 7 kids. Parents are Gwyn Seawald and Michael Seawald. They've been married now for like maybe 30 years, whatever. Not really super important to this story. They are obviously pretty conservative and fundamental, or else we would not be talking about them in this episode. So Ben was also homeschooled exclusively by his mom, and obviously she's homeschooled all 7 of the kids. Anyway, they're pretty conservative, like I said, but I feel like I've had kind of rose-colored glasses on with them, because I feel like out of everybody else within this group, in terms of the Duggars, that Ben kind of gets the race thing and racism a little bit more than everybody else, and I want to attest that to good parenting. But I feel like I've been giving too much credit where it really is not due, and with some of the posts that she's had, the fact that mom is a Trump supporter, I just am appalled, pretty much. So the first thing that I noticed, well, first we have to say that Ben has been very vocal that he's not the biggest fan of Donald Trump, and which is shocking. Like, we know that they're voting Republican, and I have a hard time believing that Ben didn't also vote Republican when it came to this presidential election, because I feel like even if you don't like Donald Trump, especially as a conservative Christian, you probably can see yourself in Mike Pence. And there's a lot of other evidence that we won't get into right now. We'll save that for the religion and politics episode, that Mike Pence runs in these fundamental circles in terms of the evangelical world, yada, yada. Like I said, we're not going to go into that right now. But again, if Donald Trump doesn't do it for you, Pence might, so I can really see how he still got in that booth and checked off Donald J. Trump. So moving forward, the biggest thing that I wanted to talk about was the fact that mom had posted, like a couple of weeks back, she posted the 1776 in the blue circle with all the little stars. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh no, here we go. And the reason why is because if you don't know, if you're not paying attention to this kind of stuff, 1776 is the name that Donald Trump gave his education initiative regarding like American history, and the point and the purpose of it was to combat this 1619 initiative. If you haven't listened to it, if you haven't read it, it basically trying to the importance of framing American history from the lens of slavery being integral to its foundation and progress, which isn't a lie. The issue with it is that, of course, now you're saying something negative about white people, right? So December 8th, 2020, she posts the 1776 thing. And a couple weeks later, right? And like I said, as soon as I saw it, I knew that it was in reference to the 1776 initiative by Donald Trump. Like, what irritates me even just about that as soon as I saw it was that, like, you homeschool your kids. I'm sorry, that was disrespectful. But you homeschool your kids. So the idea that you feel like there's a rewriting of history, there's this, that, and the third, your kids aren't even in a public school system. You probably don't even know that many kids in a public school system. And if you did and had actual conversations with them, you probably would know that this isn't something that's going to go in your Arkansas-ass school. Hello, home of the Little Rock Nine. Insane to me. But anyway, so most recent post, right, is this picture of these women sewing the original like American flag with the 13 stars representing the 13 colonies. And so this was the caption, okay? The hour is fast approaching on which the honor and success of this army and the safety of our bleeding country depend. Remember, officers and soldiers, that you are free men, fighting for the blessings of liberty. That slavery will be your portion if you do not acquit yourselves like men. George Washington, 1776. If you fighting for the blessings of liberty, that slavery be your portion. See what's crazy to me? But to quote a white slaveholder, using slavery as dehumanizing, right? As being less than a man, as an example, to combat the 1619 initiative, and then to say, oh, it's because you're trying to get the real history that people are trying to rewrite out there, is pretty freaking wild to me. Like, it's the cognitive dissonance that takes is insane. Like, could you imagine you go and decide, you know what, I don't want this slavery, this race issue clouding my history, changing my history, rewriting it, and deciding of all the quotes that you're going to choose is a quote that references slavery from a white slaveholder. At the conception of America, the Revolutionary War. Like, are you insane? The very war where many black slaves ran away and joined the British. That's weird to me. Like, I'm saying that's weird to kind of, it doesn't even do justice how I feel about that. Like, it's not just weird. It's stupid. It's dumb. It's a little bit racist. And the thing is, why it's a little bit racist is because it's the kind of racism that white people don't realize that they're participating in. Like, the narrative that they're telling. Like how powerful language is, like how important it is to teach your kids who are being homeschooled that this is what slavery was considered and why it was not okay, why it was not benign, and how words like that have meaning and they're powerful in terms of how they're used in the future. The weight that holds. What you're teaching your children, that like a slave is less than a person. And to say that black people were in bondage for that for hundreds of years in America. How dare you? How dare you? And so I commented on it, actually, and I said that. I said, I understand your point, and I'm not going, and I love your family, and I don't want to insult you by saying that, like, I didn't say this. I said it as nice as I could, that it doesn't make any sense for you to be trying to combat the 1619 initiative with this by starting off with a quote from a white slaveholder. And that while it's fine, obviously, that you don't need to look, George Washington is extremely important to American history. I mean, that's not going to go away. I mean, right? Was he not the commander-in-chief of the first commander-in-chief of the U.S. because he became the first president, and he led the Revolutionary War. That's never going to go away as being important. So for you to use a quote that references slavery when you're trying to say that we're doing a revisionist history is weird, because it's exactly what you just supported. And there had been a comment before that, and I think I either followed up to what she said. Yeah, because somebody had commented initially on the post, like, oh, this is really random. And she was like, no, there is this agenda to rewrite history and blah, blah, blah. And so I replied to that comment, and I said what I said, which is like, this is dumb, that you're trying to combat this initiative, this rewriting of history, by using what exactly it's saying is the point of why you have to look at the narrative and the perspective of slavery as it pertains to every step of American history, because it's important. And that, what else did I say to end it? That these kinds of things, these kinds of quotes, this idea of the 1776 initiative is exactly black people's problem with white Americans, that you feel like you have this ownership of American history, that it's only your perspective, that it's only your narrative as you'd like it. Like, the very idea of being conservative is to conserve, right? But how problematic that is, because there are all of these millions of people living in the country who are black, who are American, who have been here maybe longer than you and your family have been. So how dare you? And how rude that is. Like how just dumb that is. She turned off the comments, and and I'm the reason why she turned off the comments. Racism is something that's passed down. If you've never, and again, I'll talk about this more when we go full blown race and religion and the Duggars and everything like that and the Bates. But it's this book called Reproducing Racism, which is that racism just reproduces itself a different way in every generation. And how her post is a perfect example of that, right? It's benign. It's innocent. She didn't call anybody a nigger, right? But what she said was that it's okay for a white man to use slavery and admit it to bondage and not have to admit to the kind of deep nuances that go with that. You feel inspired by this because you're a white person and have never and never will understand what it's like to have the effects of slavery in your life, ever, except for somebody to call you racist, except for somebody to say, hey, this is inappropriate, right? And that can't slide at all. It's not okay. I don't care how fundamental, how conservative you are. You got to keep race out of that. That's the one place you guys need to be progressive about. Period. And we're about to get to the Rodriguezes. But during the riot that adequately happened over a lost life, they were like, it's a heart issue. It's not necessarily race. No, honey. No. It's a race thing. It's not about changing people's hearts to Jesus. Sorry. And I believe in Jesus. And I believe in Christ. And if it was as simple as that, we wouldn't be having this conversation, basically. It is what it is. So, moving forward though, why exactly that kind of language in terms of why what I said is important to her and why I was so this is exactly why I said it in your comments about how these little things matter in terms of words, why the 1619 Commission matters, which is that what happened in DC is exactly because white people like you enable this behavior. This, in terms of who's a patriot, who's a hero, who gets to go through, who gets to be a revolutionary, right? Imagine you just made this post about not being slaves. You are probably one of those people who think that there was fraud involved with the election. This kind of white behavior that enables white violence. And you don't think so, you can't make that connection because you think that you're a Christian, that you're a good person. And I'm so sick of this idea that because you're a good person, that means you can't be a racist or biased white person. You absolutely can be a wonderful, good person to your family, to strangers on the street, and be racist and have a bias. You know why? Because those things are so deeply embedded into our American psyche, our society, that almost everybody has some kind of bias. A black person definitely has biases about white people. Ours are just more benign. It's not gonna stop you from getting a job. It just means that we're not gonna eat your potluck dinner, right? That you bring. That's the difference. And white people have a hard time discerning that because again, they always have to control the narrative. And that narrative first and foremost centers themselves, sees them as important, the true patriots, the true heroes, right? So when a white cop shoots a black person, well, that's because white people are the true heroes. They know what's good and wrong. They know a bad person when they see one, right? And it has to stop. It absolutely has to stop. So at every turn where I see something like this, I'm going to say something. I don't care if you don't think that you're racist. Your behaviors are exactly what enables other people to be outright racist. It encourages bias, etc. We'll be keeping an eye out for that. On a more positive note, I could save this actually. I'll save this. Let's leave it negative. Okay, so returning to what happened in the Capitol, again, like I said, that kind of stuff is what enables white people to go and do those kinds of things. For anybody who's looking at this, who's watching, say, there were black people too. You need to look at yourself as well. You need to look at yourself as well and have a deep talk with yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, why when I heard her say white, did I say, well, there were black people there too? What compelled me to have that feeling, to need to bring it up instead of having accountability for the overwhelmingly white crowd? You take that to Jesus. You take that to yourself. But don't take it to my comments. Unless you really want to. But anyway. So, what happened in the Capitol? So, this channel is mostly going to be centered on the Duggar and Bates daughters. I was saving my only conversation about Lawson Bates and Trace Bates for the race and religion episode, but I mean it's appropriate right now. They are D-list in the context of the fact that I will not be talking about them a lot. The reason I will not be talking about them a lot is that I can't stand either one of them. I feel like Lawson Bates, I get why your family loves you so much. I think that's awesome. Like, I really can see that. I can see why they enjoy you so much. You seem like a great brother, great fun family member, but just kind of a disgusting, arrogant human being. Like, it's annoying to, like, meet somebody who you had a homeschool education and don't read any books or news or anything like that outside of your circle, and that's weird. Like, there was this tweet, and he was like, so he had this tweet, right? So somebody tweeted, if you want to be 100% certain that your perspective of what's going on is distorted, just keep unfollowing anyone who disagrees with you. With each person you unfollow, the walls of your echo chamber grow thicker. That is how social media works. And he quote tweeted it and said, correct. Sweetheart, what? You were homeschooled so your parents could echo into the chamber of conservative white brainwashing. But okay. That's an interesting take. What? Anyway, I just thought that was just so much fun. Especially because then he had another tweet. Before that, right? Just the disconnect is amazing to me, okay? He tweeted, you can vote in communism once, but you can never vote it out. Sweetheart, what the hell does that mean? And why it relates to the other tweet in terms of yelling into the echo chamber is that you haven't had any real conversations with actual communists, actual socialists, and you haven't read any socialist works. You haven't read any communist texts. Screaming into the echo chamber, yet you feel qualified to go here and tweet this. And what communism are we voting in? Like, it's crazy how Republicans are trying to push us into a second Red Scare, especially since they're the Red Party. But it makes sense, the metaphor, right? Everything in their party predicates on fear. So what do? Yell out and scream things as scary, just because it's different. And it's communism now. Anything that is different from what we have right now, according to the Republican Party, is communism, is socialism. If the Democratic Party even so much as sneezes and doesn't say, bless you, they just say bless, it would be communism. You're taking out the you. Why? You're trying to curse me. That's where the Republican Party is at right now, okay? God forbid. We God forbid. And even just saying that is why I'm so bothered by, oh, actually, and I think I said this too. I said this to Gwen Mom, Seawald fam, that the fact that what she was writing, her comment just really fed into why George Washington said we do not need political parties in America. I was like, basically, like, this is the reason why, because now you're making up stuff, and that this is a fear of something that's untrue that your political party has given you. And this is exactly why George Washington said that we don't need political parties, because it's going to do stuff like this, and look what it's doing, stuff like this. Why not pay attention to those quotes? Why not pay attention to that? Since you love history so much, since you love old George so much, let's talk about that. Why are you so loyal to this party? Weird. Because I don't think that there's anything necessarily wrong with being a Republican, but to the point that you're this loyal, that you're this blinded, as a Christian, it could make sense if you were just a regular non-worshiping person to say, I'm going to be loyal to this party. I love politics. I love what they're all about. This is me. But to put Christianity behind it, no way. No way. It's not Christ-like, in my opinion. To accept just any filth that that party tells you. To live in fear like that, right? Imagine you fearing anything but God. You fear the word of man. That's insane to me. And call it a political party. Okay. All right. Am I saying that you should not be scared of communism? If you hate communism, you hate communism. Most people don't like communism. I don't think there is anywhere that is in fact communist in our world. The truth being told. It might be, say it's a communist country on paper, but for the most part, I'm not even going to get into that because the political ideology of communism versus socialism is so deep. It shouldn't be me in a vague video about politics explaining it, but it's dumb to be afraid. To me, it's like saying, oh, I'm really, really, really scared of getting cancer, and then doing nothing to research what puts you at a high risk for cancer because you're scared of getting it. And somebody just told you it's a bad thing to get, so you're just going to run with that. I don't want it. That's it. It's really strange to me. Like, it's really bizarre. But that's me. Returning to our good friends Lawson and Trace Bates, who went to the Capitol. So, I don't know if Trace has a, what is this, Twitter? I don't care to know. I don't care to know, babe. But after the riots happened, Lawson had some very interesting opinions about who caused it. People who weren't patriots, according to him. So let's look at those tweets. Let's take a little look. Okay. So anyway, it's this picture, and obviously I'm gonna put it right here, but it says that he retweeted, and somebody else commented, "They don't look like patriots to me." ... What do you mean? They were at the rally with you. They didn't look like patriots then? Okay. I don't even know from this picture what would make them say like they don't look like patriots to me, but I can only assume it's because they did something illegal. The minute you do something illegal, you are no longer a patriot, unless you're a police officer. Because the murder's legal for y'all, so. NBD. And then that same person who said these don't look like patriots said, Antifa led the charge into the Capitol building dressed as Trump supporters. And this man, Lawson Bates, commented, correct. As I said in my last Keeping Up with the D-List Fundies video, who is Antifa? This is everybody's enemy, right? Do they really even exist? This is a real group. Except to be a scapegoat for conservatives. Like, I just don't even get it. Have they actually done anything? Like, any movements? Any, like, are they secret and underground? Are they anonymous? Like that, like the anonymous people? Like, is that who Antifa is? I want to know. Because if so, could y'all please eliminate my student debt? Love that for me. Really would. But like, so right. This guy says Antifa led the charge into the Capitol building dressed as Trump supporters. So then a woman got shot and killed. Somebody was murdered at this. Okay? Murdered at this event. Which already in itself, we're going to get to that. These don't look like patriots to me. Even just the word or the idea of being a patriot is so, again, being from one of the 13 original colonies, okay, being from the state that birthed the American Revolution, it's annoying to me to have these people call themselves patriots. Like, you don't know what a patriot is. How dare you? And the fact that, again, this white ownership of who gets to define and who gets to say what a patriot is in our country, which is basically like, right, a rebel, a revolutionary. No, those people were patriots, okay? They started a country. Did they have their problems? Absolutely. But they get to call themselves patriots. Y'all don't. You guys led in our formed democracy. There was no democracy. There was no country formed at the time that those people, those soldiers, were actual patriots and formed the United States. How dare you? So you went out as patriots to protest our already established, our, how many years old now? I'm not good at fast math, but democracy as established that you were okay with for years and 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 years until Trump didn't win the presidency. And some that all of a sudden now you're a patriot, you're a hero, you're a revolutionary. Go to jail. You should be in prison for being a traitor. But that's your free speech, right? You're a traitor. You're treasonous over Donald J. Trump, bro. Donald J. Trump. Trump. A rich white man. It's not the first time that poor whites have gone to bat for a rich white man, so I guess this is nothing new. So anyway, turning to my point about these traitors, himself included. All right, that's what kills me. Like, it was Antifa. These don't look like patriots to me. Again, the delusion. It's the delusion for me, right? It's the delusion for me. Like, that's it. The fact that you don't realize that these people felt just as justified as you. They love Trump for all the same reasons that made you drive from freaking Tennessee to DC at basically a small insurrection.
Like, I'm sitting here and I don't know what to do. Like, I'm in downtown DC. I'm all over the news now. But like, I'm just like every single one of those people that was marching, like a peaceful protest, came here to represent America, we're tired of being lied to. We're tired of people stealing, from us, stealing our freedom, stealing our liberties. And I didn't hurt anybody in there. Like, yeah, I did sit in Nancy Pelosi's seat. Like, she shouldn't be there. She doesn't represent
You associated and got together with a couple of terrorists. How embarrassing. Not me. Not me, though. Not anybody I know. Not anybody that I respect. Not how I see a democracy. It's your freedom of speech to protest an election that there is no voter fraud for. I think that's even what's most, like, just depressing about this whole situation, is how none of them have gotten it, like, through their minds that, like, this man has distorted and manipulated your truth so well to the point that you don't trust your democracy. The fact that, like, this long established system is insane. I mean, it's crazy to me because I kept saying that, like, in my mind, for me, that our two-party system is pretty crazy. Like, it's wild. Like, I said to myself that I wanted to see bipartisanship die within my lifetime, like that we would have more parties, basically. And I didn't think it would look like this, hun. But at the same time, I mean, like, watching the Republican Party splinter is just crazy. And, like, not because I'm, like, wishing on their demise, but because it's been Republican leaders who have shot themselves in the foot with this, basically. Like, even if Donald Trump gets impeached and can't run again, his kids can. Ivanka's young. Very young. Classy. White. Blonde. Wealthy. In Florida. They're moving down to Trump land? Yeah. It's gonna be a very interesting decade. The 2020 to 2030s is gonna be very interesting, to say the least. And yeah, we'll see if that does happen. I wonder if it will. That's what they're threatening, but that they're threatening that, right? An insurrection even within the Republican Party. Insane. It's a party that you've been loyal to for years, right? The Christian Party. How's the moral majority? What are they gonna do? Do you choose Donald Trump over country? But returning back to Lawson and his tweets, which was that, they don't look like patriots to me. Antifa led the charge. The woman who got shot was a veteran who toured 4 times, who did several other Trump events, but she's not a patriot, right? She broke into the Capitol building and did things that are very illegal. That she broke in was illegal. Like, things that are very illegal. That she broke in, that she participated in that. As a veteran and a patriot, it was an absolute sin to take a knee before, right? But she's okay. Well, she's not okay. She's dead, which is a tragedy to people who loved her. But yeah. But anyway, so that being said, and then also, okay, we're not even done there. We're not even finished there. some of the other people, right, that were there, like, they're not patriots, they're Antifa. Antifa gets dressed up to go meet Don Jr. and Rudy Giuliani. Interesting play. Okay. People wearing Civil War MAGA shirts. Not true patriots, Antifa. Antifa ordered those shirts. Couldn't have been us. Couldn't have been us. Couldn't have been us. Those aren't patriots. Those aren't people like me who voted for Donald Trump, who love Donald Trump, who wave Donald Trump flags. We're not the same. How dare you? Those are fake. That's Antifa. Okay? This man from Arkansas owns a business or whatever. Isn't that where the Duggars are from, Arkansas? He's Antifa, though. Antifa. Antifa love the charge in there. Okay. It's the delusion for me. And you know what enables the delusion? Circling right back around to the 1776 Commission and Gwynne Sewell's post. Stuff like that. Stuff like that. Fear-mongering over the 1619 initiative. Stuff like that. A socialist agenda to take over. And you have white people storming the Capitol building. And you have white people storming the freaking Capitol building. But it's some kind of socialist agenda against our democracy. That makes sense. Okay. Love it. Love it. Here's another thing. This is my favorite. Oh my god, I can't wait to do the race religion video. I'm saving that for Black History Month, but this is my favorite. I don't know what this person said beforehand. I'm gonna go check to see if they're black. I hope they're not black. I hope they're not black. I swear to God. They're black, I'm gonna scream. Which was, okay, Lawson Bates replying to some tweet that I can't see because apparently the person deleted it. Probably because he replied to it, maybe. I don't know. Yes, I am. I swore to uphold the U.S. Constitution and the TCA. I will never enforce an unconstitutional law or violate personal freedom. One has a legal and moral responsibility to obey just laws. Conversely, one has moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. MLK. Is that the whitest BS? An MLK quote? You're comparing your white freedom of speech to MLK fighting for civil rights in Jim Crow South? You're from Tennessee, a slave state, a big slave state. Big place for the Civil War. Are you for real? An MLK quote? You used an MLK quote? An MLK quote to support fighting for what? I want to know one civil freedom that Lawson Bates has lost. I want to know one. 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 I want to know one time he was disrespected at this level that he felt like he needed to include an MLK quote. And this is what I mean about screaming into the damn echo, right? How dare you? How dare you say correct? Your homeschooling is exactly this, where to the point it made you feel like it's appropriate to quote MLK about yourself and your civil personal freedoms that you feel like you're losing. That you feel like you're losing, right? That you feel. It's a feeling. It's not even real and tangible. How dare you? I'm disgusted. Ooh. And this is why I'm not going to talk about Lawson Bates or Trace Bates on this channel, just because there's so much other fun content that we can have. Like we're gonna have some fun. And it's never going to be fun talking about him. I'm going to talk about him in the couples episode only because I feel like I have to. There's a bunch of like rumors and stuff, but in the confessions episodes, I'll talk about him then briefly. But I can't believe that. I'm really in shock right now. Like, I know I saw it before, but I can't. Why are white people that white sometimes, huh? Oh, how the streets wanna know. We wanna know. Don't care. Still an inappropriate use of the MLK quote, even if you used it with a white person. Because again, I want to know what freedom that you have lost already that you felt it was appropriate to use an MLK quote. White man, tell me. Tell me. Tell me. Because I want to know. The streets want to know. Tell me. Let's talk about the Rodriguez family.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.